Good morning, Tim.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
So welcome to, I wouldn't say India, welcome to the entire world, because this program is being watched across 75 countries, and we have had some very important guests, and we have guests from all walks of life, all ages, youth climate activists, obviously the United Nations Environment Program. And thank you so much for assisting us in putting up this program and being able to join from there despite your very hectic schedule. I will leave the platform to Tim now for his opening words and then some interactions. Pani has a question, being a youth climate activist, and obviously the audience will also like to put up a few questions. So Tim.
Thank you so much, Rajiv, and hello again, everybody. I've been really looking forward to this event, and my colleagues in our India office also really recommended that I should make the time to be with you today. So very happy about this and looking forward to also questions from the audience. I understand this is live on Facebook and other channels. So thank you very much for the invitation. I want to briefly outline what generation restoration is all about. So the United Nations, and led for the decade by the UN Environment Program and the Food and Agriculture Organization, is calling the whole world to rally behind the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. And this decade that will start this year, 2021, and run until 2030, has as its aim to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of ecosystems worldwide. Nothing more, nothing less. But if you unpack that sentence a bit, that is a huge and daunting task, because we have already degraded our ecosystems to such a degree that conservation alone is no longer enough. Of course, we have to conserve the natural ecosystems we have left, but that alone will not be enough to ensure that we have quality of life for generations to come. We have to be proactive, and that means we have to restore our ecosystems. We put out a report yesterday that got quite a lot of coverage already in the media, and we'll share that with you also, to share, please, with everybody online. In that report, we basically draw the baseline of where we are today and where we need to be in 2030. The UN decade is both about doing actions in the field and restoring, getting together with your community, your school, your office colleagues, and doing something for restoration, whether it's cleaning up a river, cleaning up a lake, a beach, planting a forest, tending to a community garden. There are so many ways you can get involved. Probably the most important way, though, is what you are doing now, is to raise the awareness and be politically active, because that means that our politicians and senior decision makers in private sector and in government will take this more seriously. They will take nature more seriously. And this is badly needed. If we look back until 1990, so barely 30 years ago, the world has lost forests of 420 million hectares. That's an area the size of India plus Nigeria together. Forests gone in just 30 years. So if we continue with that trend, we are literally eroding the ground on which we stand. We're cutting off the branch that we sit on. So this cannot continue. Since 1990, productive capital in the world has doubled. You know, cars, buildings, roads, factories. Human capital has also increased by about 10%. Education, longevity, health. What has decreased by 40%, though, in the same time, is our natural capital. So we have fueled this economic growth at the expense of nature, and we're coming to a point now where that economic model does no longer work, because the harm that it does now outstrips the benefits. Air pollution in developing and developed countries alike is causing 7 million deaths a year. Plastic in the ocean is now so pervasive that in almost every fish that you eat, you can be sure that there's some plastic included in your meal. forest loss has slowed a little bit, but we're still losing 10 million hectares of forests a year. I come from Germany, and that happens to be the entire forest area of Germany. That's 10 million hectares. That's what we still lose every year. So this has to be turned around, and we have to demand from our political leaders that they stop and reverse this trend, because it's not something that school children and the youth can do themselves. And it's unfair to put this burden on the next generation and say the youth will fix it. That's actually quite an old excuse, and we should not keep using that. No, it's our political leaders of today who have to fix it. And the youth and others have to demand that they fix it. So what you do is a very important activity in support of generation restoration. In the UN Decade, we have many ways to engage, and many of them are online. So your approach has been well before its time, and I think is all the more relevant today, because we do have many opportunities to use the online space to connect. So tomorrow we will launch a digital hub for everybody who wants to become part of generation restoration, where you can meet, learn, upload, download, share information, find projects you want to support or be part of, find funding, find resources, find peers, other schools who want to do something. And that digital hub will grow over the next few years. And we very much hope that you'll be an active partner in that, in sharing and uploading information. So I'm very much looking forward to any questions you might have, or from the audience or from the other panelists. Thank you, Rajiv, and thanks everybody.
Thank you, Tim. First of all, I'll request Mika to have a bit of interaction with you. He's been waiting and he's crucial in getting this program organized with you also. Mika,
Yeah.
forest to forest.
Yes, actually, Tim wasn't here. The forest background me is just where I ran this morning. I had my morning run. You can see the path over there. So forest is for Finnish. We live in forest, but we also have some things that we could do better. There's always things for biodiversity. For instance, we could have a more biodiversity in the forest, and not also to old forests to save them more. So it's not perfect at all, but it's a good start from somewhere. And I'm very happy, Tim, that you are here, because the ecosystem restoration is a huge challenge. And also, even though we are talking about a climate change and climate change, it's very important. Like, and biodiversity, at least as important. So this ecosystem restoration for doing something really, and to start to do it, and the decade gives the framework for that. I think it's great, and I'm very happy that you are here, and we must do more this together, and not only NGOs but also business and private sector and public sector. And for instance, in Finland, I think I just heard our minister Pekka Haavisto's speech that will be published today, yesterday evening. He said that Finland gave some money also to Tanzania to start this ecosystem restoration. I think some funds, and also countries are important, but also us as citizens are very important, and to network. And I'm very eager. I'm very much act now to do this decade. As Rajiv pointed out, I've been working for 20 years with this environmental education, with this network. Before that, in 1992, when we had this Rio agreement, Al Gore made a initiative about a GLOBE program, and actually our school was amongst the first in 1995, when the World Wide Web was opened, and it functioned there. So I have been in the front line there, but for the environment, and technology is a good helper, as you said about this the digital hub that you are working. We can harness the technology for this, and like this event in general. So thank you very much, Tim, for your time and commitment. I appreciate.
Thank you, Mika, and I'm really looking forward also to have all of you actively engaged in the digital hub, and maybe you can also focus on some specific things that
we have to do that.
we can do for that hub through your amazing network.
Okay, we will.
Thank you, Mika. Thank you, Tim. You'll be happy to know that Jordan Sanchez is joining live 3:30 IST time, and she has been very kind, and she will do another poem also she wrote along with this reimagine, recreate, restore, 3:30 IST. Apart from that, we have had messages last evening from Inger Anderson and also from Tarja Halonen, former president of Finland. And apart from that, we have had good wishes from COP26 high climate champion, and Mr. Alok Sharma was pretty busy, so he couldn't join. I couldn't send a message because they're preparing for this COP26. I will have a question towards when you are about to move, so to leave you with some thoughts. But I think Pavani has a question for you. Pavani?
Hello, everybody. My name is Pavni, and thank you, Tim sir, for coming. I am very happy that you're here because this is one of the most awaiting events for me, because right now I can actually see everyone, even in the live session, and I can see everyone just being very happy. I don't know how truly happy they are, but I am very happy. So I have a very basic question that we've seen that for many past years, youth voice has been very crucial in forcing governments for climate change. And during this decade of restoration, do you think there could be a greater shift in youth focus towards concrete climate actions?
That's a great question, Bhavani, and very timely. For the UN decade, we are just about to launch what we call the Youth Task Force with a group called the Children and Youth Major Group in UNEP. So there's a self-organized group of youth representatives, and they elect people to who participate in all UNEP key meetings. And with those two colleagues and with the youth constituency that they represent, we're setting up this task force. So we'd be very happy to not only know about youth-led initiatives, but really try to facilitate them through this digital hub, through the youth task force, because sometimes it helps to know that you're not alone doing something. That is already a help, right? If you know that there are 100 other initiatives worldwide that want to do what you want to do, and you can connect with them. For me, at least, that gives a lot of hope and gives a feeling of joint coordinated action. The other aspect is political, and I think here there has been a shift already at the UN level that youth voices are being heard much more. That is my impression, that in every meeting that we are organized, we're now asked to include voices from the youth. We have seen that also in our meeting with the member states. We're working closely with an office of the UN Secretary General called the Special Envoy on Youth, whose team is closely involved in this UN decade. And of course, the main hashtag we chose for this decade, Generation Restoration, also, I hope, implies that we very much want to include all generations, but in particular youth and the next generation in ensuring that together we can build a better planet, or let's say, in this case, rebuild a better ecosystem in many parts of the world where this is still possible. And maybe one final thought, Mika, that also comes back to your points and to what Pavani said. The scale of the challenge is maybe daunting, but we also need a mind shift when we talk about this, because we sometimes think, nature is nice and it's maybe nice to plant a tree or two, but we have no problem imagining that somebody's building a 4-lane highway from Delhi to Mumbai, and that costs $5 billion. We have no problem imagining that. So let's do the same with the 26 million hectares of land restoration that the Indian government, the Prime Minister himself, has committed. It just has to be done. There's not even a shortage of money in India, because you have something called the Kampa Fund There's $5 billion sitting in it, waiting to be spent on ecosystem restoration, which is its purpose. So there really are no excuses. It can be done. We have to think about ecosystem restoration at a very different scale, though. Think about it as an engineering challenge, as a challenge that is like a major infrastructure project, like building an airport and employing, of course, tens of thousands of people to do it. So this is the change we need. Sorry, my answer was slightly longer than your question, but I hope I answered.
No, that's absolutely all right, sir. You didn't speak. I think you just spoke enough because it answered my question very well. So another question which I don't know, it just popped in my head that, as things stand today, we are on the verge of breaking our connection to nature. And for example, we all are here and you and I are talking here through this medium. Now, we are continents apart and we are nations apart, but if there's just some glitch in the digital connection, that we know the consequences. Exactly what brings to my question is that when we forgot that we had bio connections, do you think that this decade of restoration would not go as planned and we will actually break our connections with nature?
Again, this is a question that is absolutely at the heart of the strategy of the UN decade, and we have spent a lot of time thinking about exactly this. There's a saying that search your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of the world. Meaning that human attitude and our thinking shapes the world. Everything around us has once been an idea. Every house, every road, every building. So what we think and how we see the world shapes what the world looks like. So therefore, your question is absolutely essential. Our relation with nature has to change from being a free-for-all buffet that we can eat until there's nothing left to being stewards of nature. But the most fundamental shift, probably, Pavani and everybody, I think, is that we have to understand that we are part of nature. Nature does not exist out there and we are here and we have really nothing to do with each other. We are part of nature. We are part of cities, are ecosystems. And the surrounding that we shape are ecosystems as well. We are part of nature. So every damage that we do to nature is a damage we do to ourselves. So that's probably the most fundamental shift that we want to bring about with the UN decade. It's a mind shift, and that in itself can then shift everything else.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pavani, for those questions. They are very imperative questions, and I think, as Tim said, they are at the heart of the very thinking behind the decade of restoration. I guess what we intend to say that in this decade, unlike other projects that have been taken in the past, this has to be administrative plus climate effort, so it reaches every individual, so every individual gets involved. Right now, what we see, the planning is very good, but ultimately the doers on the ground level, it does not reach them or they do not get involved and things do not change as much as we expect. Before we put questions to Tim again, there is a lovely song that we composed for this theme around the same theme of decade of restoration of decade, this ecosystem. So can I request JK sir to play V1? This is composed, written by amateurs, they're not professionals, but I think the lyrics and the mood is pretty beautiful. So JK sir, can you play this V1 for Tim?
Yes, yes.
What's gone is gone. Let's move on. Let's move on. What's gone? It's gone. Let's move on. Let's move on. The forest turned into concrete. It's green then complete. The mountainside, the lake beside, the blue river in the folklore. Let us store them all as about, and together we can, together we can. What's gone is gone. Let's move on, let's move on. What's gone, it's gone. Let's move on, let's move on. The mighty ocean, desert sand, the charm of the grassy field. Revive them now, revive them now, is a call of the wild, is a call of the wild. And together we will, together we will. The truthful little calorie, the break come to us daily. We will do it together. We will do it together. Together we will. Together we will. What's gone is gone. Let's move on. Let's move on. What's gone? It's gone. Let's move on. Let's move on. It's gone, let's move on. What we still have, let's blind on. We can make peace with nature. A generation really can. Act now, and together we can. Together we can. Together we will, together we will.
That was beautiful. Please, can you share that with us so we can also add
yeah,
this
sure.
to our UNEP and FAO playlists?
I'll send it. There's a better version of it. As I said, the amateurs did it, and the song was written by Pawnee mom. The lyrics were written by and produced by Sam Francis, who will be live tomorrow with us. And the video was made by Ronnie yesterday only. Next time we'll have more technical and professionals with us. But I like the lyrics and the mood of it. So thank you, Tim, so much. I usually have 2 minutes, two official minutes with us. Of course, you can stay longer, but I'm sure that you have too many engagements today, and you have to appear worldwide in most of the programs today. Thank you so much. Can any of the hosts, if you want to ask him a question, he still has 2 minutes, 2 official minutes with us. Nayyar sir. Nayyar sir is I will introduce, he's a biologist, he's a scholar, and he is one of the teachers that I respect most in my life.
Thank
Nayyar
you,
sir.
Rajiv sir. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for being a part of this program. Tim, I have a question. We are very hopeful. There is a lot of optimism that is seen all over. But don't you think that we do not have that kind of political will with the governments all over the world that can bring that change? So undoubtedly, individuals are doing a lot. Even NGOs, community groups, they are all doing a lot. What is that the UN can do to pressurize these political groups all over the world so that they can participate more into this climate restoration work?
So there are some things that the UN can do, and one thing is, of course, that we are always happy to highlight if a country is doing well. Tomorrow, the host country for World Environment Day is Pakistan, and I believe the Indian government is paying quite close attention to what Pakistan is doing and what is being showcased and all the positive things happening there. So of course, this is one thing the UN can do, is to inspire other countries to do more based on leadership that is happening elsewhere. And but what is much more important than that is what you do, because in the strategy for the UN decade, we very deliberately speak about building a global movement because of exactly what you pointed out, the lack of political will. Political will is a function of what people demand, at least in democratic societies, but even elsewhere in the world. What people demand and what they want ultimately will influence political will. This is what political will is made of. So in the decade, we have 3 pathways of action. The first is to build a global movement that will demand change, but also do things ourselves. I mean, we can all do ecosystem restoration as well, but there has to be a demand for change. The second pathway is building the political will. And the third is building the financial and technical capacity to do ecosystem restoration at scale. These are the 3 pathways of the UN Decades strategy. And therefore, what you do is so important. And please do keep it up. And every voice matters. Every action matters, but every voice perhaps matters even more. So thanks for that question.
Thank you, Tim. I think we have overshot you by 1 minute. So thank you so much for being with us. And I'm sure that we are going to be in interaction for at least next 10 years, if not longer. Thank you so much for being with us. And
thank you. Thank you.
Any possibility to rejoin during these 24 hours, you're most welcome. Thank you.
I will try to do that. And my next meeting is not nearly as exciting as this one. So I wish I could stay with you longer. But thank you for all these great questions and for the enthusiasm and for what you're doing. Please do keep it up. And indeed, we have a decade ahead of us. So this is only the beginning. Thank you very much.